Yes, I am being serious, and I guarantee even though you are now ready to go to the comment section to tell me how stupid I am for comparing one of the best centre-backs of all time to Franz Beckenbauer, just watch till the end of the video and see if I can convince you of my point. But before I get into that, I have got a special announcement from the sponsors of today's video, OneFootball, which is now the place where on a Saturday night, if you're in the UK or Ireland, you can watch one free Italian Serie A game each weekend. As well as this, you can also use all the other football features that I've spoken about before with OneFootball. So if you are interested in watching European football, but just don't have anywhere to watch it, then you can go to the competition page linked in the description, and you can check out the free match that will be streamed this weekend. You can also watch highlights of all the Serie A games, and near live instant clips as well whilst the games are going on, and by downloading the OneFootball app you will be helping to support the channel. So straight off the bat, obviously Harry Maguire isn't anywhere near as good as Franz Beckenbauer, or even remotely near his level, but I think Ten Hag could take some inspiration from Beckenbauer's tactical role to get the best out of Harry Maguire from an offensive point of view. The tactical role I am referring to is the libero, which was a major part of German football prior to Ralf Rangnick radically changing the way the game was viewed around the turn of the millennium. Rangnick would adjust tactically from a conventional man-to-man three at the back system that had been the norm in German football for the past 30 years or so to a zonal marking system with a back four. This first occurred around 99 to about 2005 when Rangnick had spells at Stuttgart, Hannover 96 and Schalke, as he had been inspired by the legendary Dynamo Kiev manager Vasily Lobanovsky. I won't go into too much detail about how Lobanovsky inspired Rangnick's style of play, as I did do a whole video on it a while back, and so I'll leave it linked in the description below for you to check out after if you are interested. Rangnick would use a four at the back system that focused on squeezing up the pitch, creating a vertically compact pressing shape, looking to condense a space and use it as an offensive weapon in the opposition's half, and this would come to be known as gegenpressing and would influence the next generation of German managers like Jurgen Klopp, Julian Nagelsmann and Thomas Tuchel. Prior to Rangnick, the German tactical norm was a 3-5-2, using a sweeper in a very passively pressing system, preferring to allow the opposition to move higher up the pitch and instead opt to condense the space behind the backline rather than in front of the backline as Rangnick would. In the 60s and 70s, Franz Beckenbauer was deployed as a libero in the centre of a back four, but in possession he was given the freedom to push further forward with the ball at his feet and join in with the play in the middle and final thirds. Bayern would set up in what resembled a 4-3-3, with Beckenbauer being given the license to step forward into the midfield, creating a 3-4-3 shape and playing as another ball progressing midfielder almost, either driving forward with the ball into space or moving the ball forward with his passing ability. I think Ten Hag could use Maguire like this because certainly in possession he is capable of driving the ball forward or spraying long passes out to the flanks. He does need to improve his ability to play shorter, more incisive passes to thread the ball into players between the lines, but this is a skill he can develop further whilst in this role. Though Ten Hag could use Maguire as a goal scoring threat in the final third by allowing him to join the attack and look to use his aerial dominance from crossing situations as an offensive weapon. But using an adventurous centre-back in possession won't be something that is foreign to Ten Hag, as it has also been a key feature of the Cruyffian school of thought, with Ronald Koeman and Pep Guardiola both being used in this role at different points in Cruyff's Barcelona dream team in the early to mid 1990s. Koeman was more of a sweeper like Franz Beckenbauer, who then in possession would move forward with the ball, utilising his long passing range and ball carrying ability to move the ball into the opposition's defensive third. He also provided a goal scoring threat with his long range shooting ability, making him a threat around the box, and I think Ten Hag could do a similar thing with Harry Maguire in order to provide a different type of attacking threat in the final third. We also saw Frank Rijkaard do a similar thing for Ajax under Louis van Gaal, drawing Ajax's Champions League triumph in 94-95, playing as a hybrid centre-back and defensive midfielder. Louis van Gaal used a 4-2-3-1 that would become a 3-3-3-1 in possession, with the two fullbacks Frank de Boer and Michael Reiziger inverting to play almost as wide centre-backs in a back three, either side of Danny Blind, which would then allow Frank Rijkaard to step further forward in front of the back line, being the link between the two diamonds, one in the defence with Blind, De Boer and Reiziger, and one in the midfield with Clarence Seedorf and Edgar Davids, either side of Jari Lippmann, who would play as a point of the diamond. Rijkaard played as a deep connector, being responsible for not only progressing the ball from the defensive to the middle third, but also from the middle to the final third as well. And so he had to have the passing and press resistance along with all the other attributes needed to be a central centre-back to drop into the back four when the opposition side then had the ball. Now Maguire is nowhere near Rijkaard's level in possession, also not being as agile, athletic and press resistant as Rijkaard. However, I do think he can progress the ball reasonably well, capable of switching the play with long passes or driving the ball forward into space. But because of these weaknesses, I don't think he can be used in place of a regista in possession, as he's just going to be hugely problematic with his back to goal. Instead, Maguire can retain a deeper position until the play reaches the middle third, and from then he can step or drive into the midfield as Franz Beckenbauer would do to switch the play with long passes. He can then join the attack in the final third and look to arrive late in the box, as though he is an attacking midfielder. If someone like Maguire is able to get to the byline, they can either float across back to the penalty spot for Maguire to attack, or play the ball back to a supporting player like Eriksen, who can then curl in an in-swinging cross in and around the 6-yard box for Maguire to run onto and look to flick on. He has shown that he can be an offensive aerial threat, being successful for England, especially during the attacking set pieces. And so I think Ten Hag could potentially use Maguire in this libero role in games where United are chasing a goal, but are struggling to break down the opposition in the final third, and so Maguire can almost be used as a plan B to increase United's offensive aerial ability, as right now they are far too reliant on Cristiano Ronaldo in these phases of play, and I don't see why, if a player is a threat from a corner and a set piece, that you can't then transfer this into a different phase of play when the ball is in play. Another centre back who I think could provide this goal scoring threat from the libero role is Sergio Ramos. If Christophe Galtier's PSG were to use a back 3 system, say a 3-4-3, then they could use a back 3 of Ramos with Marquinhos and Kimpembe either side. 2 of Verratti, Fabian Ruiz if signed, Idrissa Gueye and Renato Sanchez could sit in the midfield double pivot with Hakimi and Mendes playing as very attacking wing backs, whilst Neymar and Messi are both given free roles to float in front of and in behind the opposition's midfield line, whilst Mbappe can then look to stretch the pitch playing as a centre forward, looking to break in behind into goal scoring positions. In possession like Beckenbauer and Koeman, Ramos can be given the freedom to step in midfield and join the attack. He's a much better ball playing centre back than Maguire, as seen as his FB Ref report shows that he ranks in the 98th percentile for progressive passes, the 88th for progressive carries, and the 94th for dribbles. What this shows is that Ramos is a top level ball playing centre back when he does play, and so he can be used almost as another deeper line playmaker in the middle third. And then, like in my hypothetical Manchester United side with Maguire as the libero, Ramos can join the PSG attack and look to provide an aerial but just an overall goal scoring threat in the box, and this is an area where Ramos excels, as he is fantastic at attacking the ball in the box and he's very good at directing his headers, but also on the ground his close ball control and shooting technique would make him an offensive weapon for PSG nonetheless. Using a back 3 along with a sitting double pivot would allow Galtier's side to retain a solid defensive structure, allowing Ramos to make these movements forward. Ramos has shown over the years that he is a goal scoring threat when he is allowed to venture into the opposition's box, scoring as many as 11 in 2019-2020 for Real Madrid, was also ranking in the top 1% for non-penalty goals and non-penalty XG, and so by getting Ramos to make these late runs into the box, it will not only cause confusion amongst the opposition's defenders, but also you would imagine it would lead to Ramos getting more goals just from a probability standpoint. Now I will admit that throwing one of your centre backs forward into the attack may not be a tactic that you want to start out a match with, but let's say United are 0-0 at the 60th minute mark and the opposition are doing a fantastic job of closing off the middle areas in the final third, and so restricting United to creating via crosses into the box. But you also don't want to throw caution to the wind just yet, so adopting a 3-4-3 system becoming a 2-3-5 in possession would allow Maguire to provide a specialist offensive threat while still retaining some defensive solidity behind him. Now a lot of people may scoff at the idea of playing a more direct style of attack, particularly while sending one of the centre backs forward, which usually is seen as a sign of desperation at the end of a game as the final whistle approaches. However, I just see having a tactic like this for your side to potentially switch to as just a clever form of tactical diversification. Even the best sides in the world come up against opposition on occasion that completely stop their attack through the middle and are forcing them out to the flanks. And so in this situation, why wouldn't you try something a little more direct if it seemed to be a better avenue towards goal? Because after all, you get the same amount of goals for a header as you do for a 40-yard screamer. But if Ten Hag was able to successfully transform Maguire into a goal scoring weapon, it wouldn't be the first time that Manchester United have had a prolific goal scoring centre back. During the early part of Fergie's tenure, in the early to mid 1990s, Steve Bruce was just this, a centre back who was surprisingly prolific in front of goal. In his 9 seasons at United, Bruce scored a fairly impressive 52 goals in 417 appearances across all competitions, including in the 1990-91 season, where he scored 13 goals in the First Division and 19 goals in 50 games across all competitions that season. Now Bruce was on penalty duty, but a fair amount of his goals came from his aerial ability in the box, particularly from set pieces. Bruce Bruce was like a magnet to the ball when a cross came into the box, having the power and assertiveness to move to meet the cross before being able to direct the header with a firm connection past the keeper. And Harry Maguire does have a lot of these attributes as well, as we have seen at Manchester United, but more often with England and Leicester before, that he is a threat in the opposition's box. But you can't just throw Maguire forward and hope for a good ball into the box. Ten Hag would have to set up the attacking patterns in the final third in order to get the best crossers in the side into the best positions to put these crosses into the box for Maguire and Ronaldo to attack. What I would do is have the two wing backs push forward in the attack. I would use Jadon Sancho as a right wing back, with Varane or Lindelof as a right-sided centre-back behind him, with Lisandro Martinez and Malacia playing as a left-sided centre-back and left wing-back. Garner, but probably someone like Rabiot and Fred, being used as a double pivot with two of Fernandes, Eriksen or Van der Beek in front of them, sitting behind Cristiano Ronaldo as the main centre-forward. My idea of using Jadon Sancho as a hybrid between a wing-back and a wide midfielder was inspired by Helanio Herrera's Inter Milan side in the 1960s, and I am thinking of doing a whole video exploring the Catenaccio sweeper system in depth, looking at how this would relate to Jadon Sancho and get the best out of Harry Maguire, but this time from a defensive point of view. So if you do want to see that video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. But essentially, Sancho would be given the license to push high and wide in the build-up phase, and this would push the left-sided midfield from the opposition on that flank looking to press Sancho backwards, allowing Lindelof or Varane to take up a conventional right-back position in possession, which would in turn allow Maguire to move away from that regista position, where I do think his lack of press resistance could be an issue, and allow him to take up more of a conventional centre-back position, with someone like Garner or Rabiot dropping from the double pivot to move into that regista role, whilst Malacia retains a deeper position on the left than Sancho on the right, which would give United a familiar 2-3-2-3 shape in the build-up phase. United could then revert to a back three in the middle third, with Maguire being given the freedom to step further forward into the midfield, as Fred and Garner or Rabiot, as I've said, hold deeper positions, allowing the wing-backs to advance, seeing Ten Hag use a 2-3-5 in the middle third before pushing Maguire into the box as a late arrival in the final third. I would also recommend that when the wing-backs have the ball in the flanks, that one of Eriksen or Fernandes or even Garner, depending on the side the ball is on, and the positioning of the other players, backs up the play, allowing for a pass backwards for them then to get the ball out of their feet and putting a cross from a deeper position and a different angle into the box, looking for Maguire and Ronaldo's movement. Now, as I've said before, this probably isn't a tactic that Ten Hag would want to start a game with, but at the top level, the best managers with the best systems need to be prepared to potentially switch system and their style of play as well. After all, sometimes you can't win perfectly and have to do whatever you can to allow your strengths to exploit the opposition's weaknesses. And I actually do think this is a tactical system that for once could get the best out of Harry Maguire in a Manchester United shirt. So let me know what you thought of this kind of weird tactical idea that I had in the comment section below, and suggest some of yours as well. Check the description for more videos, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when my videos